was right here.
Okay.
So if you move it around, you wouldn't be able to walk around, basically, that's what you're saying.
What's up? Cool.
Pull it out quickly and jump to the presentation.
I'll show you which one I have for you. This is going to take a lot of page through. There it was.
Yeah, perfect.
That's the only one I have. Is that right?
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
That leads into us. Maybe 2 minutes. We have now 15 minutes, right? Yeah. So I'll just lead over to the session.
That transfers right into yours. Okay. Should we start? Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us after lunch on the last day. This is a pretty good crowd. Appreciate you being here. My name is Bret Lehman. I am the co-chair of the Data Center Facility Project for OCP. Under DCF, we've got OCP Ready, we've got Modular Data Center, Operational Technology and Security, and also a sustainability sub-project now. And what we're going to talk about today is Modular Data Center. We actually have mashed two tracks together, the modular or the data center facility and rack and power tracks are kind of mushed together here. So we have three presentations starting right now. Karl and I will do an introduction to modular data centers. Karl's got follow-up presentations on hybrid cooling and data centers that reduce Scope 3 emissions. And then we've got some rack solutions as well.
Hello, so I'm Stephen Moore. As Bret mentioned, we're mashing two streams together today, so I'm the project lead for Rack and Power, and we've got a few presentations just on the end of this session. One we've got by Richard Banyard, that will be here later, on the Google implementation of the V3 spec. They had a short rack, and now we're looking at a deeper rack, which he'll be presenting there. And then next we have the Meta Open Rack V3 frame specification. So we're right at the tail end of that now. That product's in mass production, and we're just about to be releasing the specification. So they'll be giving an overview of that. And then finally we have a presentation on efficiency improvements and other developments in the V3 power solutions. So that's what we've got for you today. I just wanted to say one note on the Rack and Power community. We did recently send out an email to that group of a survey kind of seeking to understand from you guys what the interests that you have, even from an enterprise level, regarding the ORV3 rack. So if you wouldn't mind doing that survey, it would really help us a lot on guiding this specifically for what you guys need in the community for the Rack and Power stream. So thanks.
So our first presentation is really about an introduction to modular data centers and the MDC Workstream. And you might be wondering, why are modular data centers important? I mean, there are a lot of conversations going on about IT hardware and software. But now as we start to talk more about immersion and heat reuse, the ability, there are issues in the construction industry today that make modular an attractive way to go forward with actually implementing these solutions. So hopefully that's what your takeaway will be from this presentation is why we're here. And I'm joined by my co-lead, Karl Rabe from WoodenDataCenter. I don't know if you want to say a few words, Karl.
Hi, I'm Karl. When Bret is doing the proper group, the data center facilities, I'm co-leading the efforts in the modular data center space, and we have some nice presentations lined up today, starting with the introduction today.
So just real briefly, what we're going to cover is just a view of the data center market. We're in an age now where more and more we do more with these things, right? Businesses are digitizing; they're finding ways to monetize, access us as consumers in many ways to generate revenue. And that involves a lot of digitization and a lot of distributed computing, meaning that we've gone from, the mainframe, from everybody having a monitor on their desk to going to mainframes and back. We keep going back and forth between centralized and distributed computing, and we're in a movement now back toward distributed computing. We'll talk about some of the data center market challenges. What is a modular data center? It may or may not fit your definition. There are a lot of different ways to kind of view it. And then what are the advantages? Why would you take a modular approach? The industry drivers are probably not really different from what anybody would expect, right? We've got 5G enabling a lot of things from video streaming to remote work. Hybrid cloud, cloud is moving around, right? The cloud providers are moving where they provide their services from, whether it's on premise or whether they move to co-location facilities. But either way, there's growth there. And the need for speed is really the main thing, is what can 5G enable going forward? Excuse me. And so just a couple of headlines that are, some are more current than others, but just kind of an indication of where the modular data center industry is and where it's going. And the one that sticks out to me is the one on the bottom right, where we talk about the size of the market, what the market's expected to be in the next few years, and this doesn't take into account any kind of open adoption. The main challenge is speed. Our customers, my company builds modular data center skids and all-in-one data centers for customers, and all anybody wants today is speed. They want to deploy fast, because the faster they can deploy, the faster they can turn their IT into some type of a revenue stream. But there are obstacles along the way, and I think we've probably been talking about these ad nauseum for the last 3 years, but the fact remains that they're still very, very, very much a part of the challenge in building a data center right now. It's difficult to get skilled labor. Depending on where you are, it's difficult to get skilled labor. So building in a modular prefabricated way takes some of that labor off the job site. We're still experiencing issues with supply chain, whether sometimes it's cost, sometimes it's lead time, sometimes it's both. Sometimes you get a lead time of 30 weeks, and when you look forward 30 weeks, what it really was 38 weeks. The suppliers are changing the dates in midstream. And so anything that can be done to speed the process in advance is really what we're trying to do in terms of a modular data center. So what is a modular data center? A lot of people think of it as just a shipping container, and I'll show one of those in a second. But it could be a skidded infrastructure. The picture on the left here is of a hyperscale data center electric room. Essentially 7 of these giant skids, and I think maybe 2 of those 7 skids would fit in this room, but they all get pre-assembled in a factory, put together, tested, and then broken apart and shipped out and deployed in the field. And it's not a modular data center, but it supports modular construction of a data center. And lots of, 15 years ago, we had to talk about the value proposition of modular. Now end users really kind of understand it. It's a way to get labor off the job site and to also speed. And a lot of times, the equipment you see on the right is a mechanical skid. A lot of our customers, what we call it owner furnished. They will provide us the gear. They do the purchase in advance, provide us the gear. That shrinks the lead time down to what it takes, to actually build the structure itself. It could be a shipping container. This is an example of a solution that had 3 cabinets in it. It could be an open solution. There's no reason why it couldn't be. It was not, but it could be. It was put on a boat and transported across the ocean to where it was deployed. It could be, custom containers that are put together, and you see various vendors in the market who will put these kinds of solutions together. It might be just the data center, just the IT hall. It might be the IT plus the cooling, plus the backup power, plus the generator. And what we're finding now is more and more end users are looking to integrators to say, we want you to provide a turnkey solution. Full turnkey, do the site prep, because some of these things go in remote locations. And who's got a bulldozer out in the middle of nowhere to build a hut to support the transport of a fiber line from point A to point B? So more and more, it's becoming more about a total solution, not just an IT hall, but all the power and cooling that goes with it. This is just an example of a couple of purpose-built data centers. The one on the right is particularly interesting because it was water-cooled. It utilized rack heat exchangers on the rear doors, and would be very conducive to an open solution, and I'm going to kind of point that out again in a slide that's coming up. If you think about the OCP tenets, open, yes, these solutions can be used to deploy open hardware. Scalable, absolutely. Impactful, Sure. I mean, there's a significant revenue stream that comes out of this. Any kind of data center, they're not building it for the fun of it, right? If you're an end user, you're probably driving a big revenue stream through your IT. It's sustainable in terms of there's less waste in the fabrication process. Quality is an issue that really isn't an OCP tenet, but you know, it's important to customers who want to deploy these things quickly. You have these advantages in modular construction. So if you're interested in deploying an open solution, whether that's an all-in-one data center or you know, any type of solution related to open, it can be done in a scalable and prefabricated modular way. So I'm just going to give you a quick example. I've been using these slides for about 2 years of what OCP means to, you know, a deployment compared to a traditional data center. So I took an example. This is a 90 kilowatt flexible modular data center. It's OCP accepted. Was developed about 3-4 years ago. It's not in the marketplace, but it's in the wiki, and you can see that. And it's traditional, right? It's got in-row cooling. It's got 12 racks, a UPS, and I sat down and started thinking about, well, what if you OCPized this thing? So the first thing that struck to me was I can reduce the number of cabinets I have from 12 to 10 and drive a high density and be able to take this 90 kW and drive it up to, you know, 1/4 megawatt. All I have to do is, instead of using air cooling, I get rid of my in-row coolers. I add rack heat exchangers on here with a couple of cooling units. I have a couple of cooling distribution units. I have a couple of cooling units on the end to take care of whatever environmental load and other heat sources that might be in there besides the IT. I add a small area for power distribution, and that's my data center now. If I look at the space, and I think about the fact that I don't need a UPS anymore, I don't need as much space in the rear of the rack. All I need is enough space for sufficient air to flow. I don't need to access from back there, so that space can be minimized. What I'm looking at is, compared to the previous case, the traditional build, you could knock out 25% of the volume on this particular instance just by deploying open and driving the density higher. You can almost triple the density of the original solution in 25% less volume. So to me, that's the impact. That's impactful, and it's where we think, you know, especially if some of the big OEMs would start to offer OCP compliant servers, this stuff will take off like crazy. But from where we are right now, this is where I see the advantages. And Karl, I'll turn it over to you.
So just in line with, you know, the use cases and some of the work we're doing is improvising based on that form factor. This all-in-one that we use and share, and we will have examples of this coming up. Interestingly, this is the work we're doing right now, which is not happening in the MDC presentation space, but we will go into detail of this passive cold plate modular data center and the advanced cooling, which is 2B, I think. But we'll jump soon in some other examples of what we do in this space, especially also with rear door heat exchanger and direct liquid cooling. All right, good. And as always, you know, starting off with this, we are for 2023. We see a lot of cooperation with the advanced cooling group. We're looking into publishing more specifications, more white papers on this, so that we have more visibility. As Bret said, you know, most of the publications have been a little bit older, and we've now, I've been now in this leadership position a year, and we've been preparing more of this, and we're happy to, you know, participate. It's free to join the MDC group. Not the same with some of the other groups, I believe, but feel free to join our sessions and learn more about our activities or advanced cooling, or if you have anything else, then I would open the space for questions.
Are there any questions? One place where I would say we could specifically use some help is the process of prefabrication and modular, just due to its nature, is it consumes less material. But there's very little data out there that exists on quantifying just how much is the benefit there. If anybody has any insight into that, we will be really interested in hearing it and using it as another talking point to tout the benefits of this process.
I have one question, or let's say plans. What about immersion cooling? Do you have any plans? What is the future?
Yeah, and that's one of the advantages of participating in open compute, I believe, is cutting edge technologies. We're talking about quantum computing this week. That's the first time I've heard that topic, outside of my days at IBM a few years ago. But immersion is absolutely something we're looking to deliver in a modular fashion. It can be done. I've got a couple concepts developed, and it's probably something we should talk about sharing across the broader. Commercially, we have some interest in that, but it's something that could absolutely be shared. We've got 100 and 300 kilowatt solutions concepted for immersion cooling. So, yeah, it can already, fits in the box.
Yeah, thank you so much. So my question would be, how much do you see the plug-and-play reliable connectivity critical in this whole concept which you have shown?
Yeah, it's critical, right? Especially if it's a fluid, to have a drip-free connection. That's critical. But also because of ease of installation in the field, you want to have. I mean, different end users prefer different connectors, and I don't know how much work is being done to specify those kinds of things. But yeah, it's got to be easy and fast in the field in order to deploy that kind of a solution. Okay. It's definitely a consideration. And
you mentioned that you would like to have probably later on, some examples on that field. Would you be interested? Actually, I'm coming from a company which is doing connectors.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to catch up. Thank you so much.
Just one question from my side. Do you mean the plug and play of the whole data center, putting it on site, plugging it in, or do you mean like the internals of it, of setting up the IT in the data center, or both?
Actually, both.
Okay.
What the field I'm coming from is a little bit more about power, but we have also signal data and so on, and I think it's very critical. We also see it's very critical for the pre-tested, reliable, high quality and so on solutions to be already tried out, delivered on the site and so on.
We'll be very interested. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Karl, you're up next.
Yeah, we switch to the next session.